Namaste and in la catch. The divine in me recognizes the divine in you, and I am another you, is what those two phrases means. And imagine what you could do with that in your own life. At the core, we are all one. So this week's show is featuring Dr. Jacob Liberman, who is an author, an optometrist, and an inventor. He's a doctor in optometry. He's got a Ph.D. in vision science. He's past president of the College of Syntonic Optometry and the International Society for the Study of Subtle Energies in Energy Medicine. He's a fellow emeritus from American Academy of Optometry, College of Syntonic Optometry, and the College of Optometrics in Vision Development and International Academy of Color Sciences. He's the author of 3 books: Take Off Your Glasses and See, Luminous Life, How the Science of Life Unlocks the Art of Living, and Light Medicine of the Future, How We Can Use It to Heal Ourselves Now. He was also the 2019 International Light Association's Francis McMahon Award achievement, or received that in achievement for light medicine. Jacob, glad to have you here.
Then it's a pleasure to be together with you this morning.
I have been looking forward to this conversation ever since we connected on Facebook. You've got some wonderful work, and I really admire what you've been doing. So let's start back a little bit and look at how this began. Most of my guests have some kind of inkling as a child or during the younger years from which they were able to build upon. What kind of experiences did you have, and how did that help you ascend into a new order in your own life?
I've been a sensitive my whole life, which I guess means that something within me is aware of what's coming to me rather than what's coming from me. And so ever since I was a child, something would enter my awareness. At the time, I thought it was just thinking, because we were conditioned to believe that that's what was going on. But essentially, something would just become clear, almost instantaneously, free of charge, from where I do not know. And it happened in so many different ways, from noticing something on my mother's leg that ended up being a melanoma, that happened very young, to recognizing that the voice that I was often aware of in the mind was actually being observed by something else. When I was a small child of 10 or 11 years old, I was selling papers on a corner in Miami, Florida. And I used to ride my bicycle from elementary school to the corner, sell these papers for a nickel and make a penny on each paper. I got out of school a little late, didn't have a chance to go home and have a snack first. I rode my bicycle to the corner. The papers hadn't arrived. I had no money, but I was hungry. All of a sudden, what caught my eye was Saunders' hardware store across the street. I walked in, I went right to the candy counter. I stole a candy bar, stuck it in my back pocket, and started walking out feeling rather guilty, at which time I heard a voice in my head that said, "Nobody saw you." And all of a sudden, something just stopped, and there was a realization that I saw me. I went outside, I sat under a tree. I never actually ate the candy bar. But all of a sudden, I realized that what saw me was not the voice that said, "Nobody saw you." And it was the first time I had some realization that this thing we call mind, that supposedly we think with, moves us through the world, that actually there was something else that was aware of that. And so I've had visions and experiences like that since I was a small child. To then bring it up when I finished my medical training and started my professional training, I was wearing glasses. Like many kids, I had a problem with reading in school. Even though I tried really hard, I used to fall asleep when I would start to read, and schoolwork was tough for me.
Mhm.
And when I entered college, within 10 days of entering college, I literally, my eyesight got blurry in the middle of a test because I was so scared. I was given glasses, and that's what started the progression of my nearsightedness, which every year I needed stronger glasses. And so when I was in my medical training at the end of my second year, I thought they were going to ask me to leave because I was having such a tough time in school between getting through my schoolwork and working in order to pay for my school. And so at the end of the second year, they send you to the clinic to be examined by one of the third or fourth year students to give them some practice.
Mhm.
And the young student that examined me said, well, you need a stronger pair of glasses. Well, I'd heard that year after year. And then he said, but you have some problems using your eyes together, and you might want to try these little exercises. Well, I never did the exercises. And 2 months later, I was sitting on my bed doing my homework. I fell asleep. When I awoke, the first thing that caught my eye was this little device he had given me 2 months prior that was sitting in the corner of my room. For whatever reason, I picked it up. I used it for 4 or 5 minutes, and then I read for an hour nonstop with like perfect attention and perfect comprehension. It was such a profound epiphany for me
Right.
that I started crying, because up to that point, I thought I was stupid. I thought something was wrong with my brain because everyone else seemed to be able to read easily.
Sure. And you didn't think that everything, or that their techniques or tools or things like that would have any effect either, because of the
No one had ever suggested anything
Right,
like
right.
this, you know? So I did this for about 10 minutes a day for maybe 6 or 8 weeks. And then I made Dean's List every single quarter for the next 2 years. It was a life changer. It was like a light went on. And it was profound for me that vision was so much more than just eyesight.
Oh,
And that
absolutely.
really influenced me.
Right.
You know, we often say, I see, but I see means I know, I understand, things are clear, not just the eye chart, but everything is clear.
Right. There's a
That
cognition, if you will.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. That experience influenced the type of practice that I went into, which was helping kids that had the kind of problems I had, realizing that many vision problems could be prevented with the appropriate type of care, vision training, certain kinds of preventive glasses, not the kind of glasses to see clearer, but the kind of glasses that cause our system to go, ah.
Yeah. Or exercise a little bit.
Exercising, and glasses that reduce stress
Sure.
rather than just focus you on the ability to see at 20 feet.
Right. Let me back
Bottom
up with
line
this a
is,
little
yeah,
bit with that, as you were seeing the device, and as you were talking about your childhood. I orphaned and adopted and found the voice around 5 years old, inquiring of, what's going on, and do I have a father and mother in heaven that I can talk to?
right,
And the
right,
voice appeared. It's kind of not identical to what you went through, but I became aware that there was something else and going on. And like you, there were these second level or second tier thoughts, right? The one like nobody saw you, right?
right.
And then there was the other one. There's, wait a minute. Yes, they did. because it was you. And then there's another that's observing and reporting on those too. Now, in that sight of the tool in the corner of your bedroom, what was the conversation that went on in your head as a result of that?
None.
Okay.
It
You just followed
literally,
through.
it literally caught my eye, and something had to go there and get it. And then I just began. There was no intermediary.
Mhm.
I'm glad you asked the question, because
It came
that
from
is
no
so
thought. It came from an
well.
energy response.
Uh,
Was that?
it was an automatic response to something that was animating movement within me.
Mhm.
And we'll talk more about that a little later, because that's so much the gist of the work that I'm working on today. But I never actually flashed on it in the way you just discussed by your question of, oh, I realized that happened even way back then, and that was
Sure.
1971.
Inherent with the apocalyptic chats, my friend.
Yeah. The bottom line was that I went into practice and I started experimenting with my own vision to see, was there something I could do to reduce my dependency on glasses? Was there something I could do to reduce the amount of time I used my glasses? Because back then, I couldn't drive without my glasses. My license said I needed to wear glasses.
Mhm.
In 1976, I was sitting at home one Sunday meditating, which I had learned in 1971 and used to do on a daily basis. And I took my glasses off and I sat down and I began to meditate. And somewhere in the experience, I was aware of the entire room. What I mean is, whatever it was that was seeing was aware of Jacob sitting in the room and everything else in the room at the same time.
Mhm.
And everything was clear, not just optically clear, but at a level that I had never experienced clarity before. And what I mean was, it was so clear that the mind was still. It was so clear that whatever was noticing what was going on was aware that even the space between that which is observing and that which is being observed is filled with life and energy. What we call empty space wasn't actually empty at all. I don't know how long this experience went on for, but when my meditation finished and I opened my eyes, and all this was occurring with my eyes closed,
Mhm.
my eyesight was totally clear. And when I say totally clear, it was so shockingly clear that I don't remember seeing that clear. And at first it was like, what's going on here? And then after a couple of minutes, I actually got a little scared. Something must be wrong, because this is not supposed to happen. There's no mechanism that I'm aware of how this could happen. None of my education told me that this was even possible.
Right.
So I didn't know what was going on. And so it was so shocking for me. I got in my car. My glasses were on the seat next to me because my license said I need to wear them, but I didn't need them. So I drove to my office, which was about half an hour away. And I noticed the street signs, the billboards, the license plates, everything was easily visible. I went to my office. I sat in my exam chair 20 feet away from the eye chart. I put up a series of eye charts that I'd never seen before, and I could read 300% better. I could read one line smaller than 20/20.
Mhm.
And prior to that, all I could see was the big E on the chart. I had no idea what was going on, so I did something I had never did before. I put the instrument in front of my face, and I started to examine myself. Of course, I couldn't tell what I was doing
A little
because I
different
was
kind of
on the-
self-examination, right?
Exactly. When I finished and got to whatever the prescription would be, I was sure that I'd come out of the device and the device would basically show no prescription, because I was seeing 300% better without straining, without squinting, without any effort.
Now, I'd like to ask
So
you
when
something about that. Do you
Yeah,
recognize that one was a belief system and the other was an experience system that you were wrestling with?
at that point, I wasn't aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's different, but let me take you back to that point for a moment.
Sure.
After I examined myself, I came out from the device, and the prescription in the machine was almost identical to the one in my glasses. Let me explain that so your listeners understand. Something, whatever the mechanism was that is seeing within us, which I used to think was the eye, was able to read 300% better, clearer. But the optical measurements of the eye didn't change at all, which meant that whatever was seeing was far more than just the eyeball, or perhaps even the brain. Now, if that would have occurred for 5 minutes, I would have said, my God, that's a miracle. But I haven't worn glasses in 46 years now. And I'm 75 years old. And I don't wear them for reading, and I don't wear them for distance. And I've passed all my driver's tests. The point I'm making is that experience really opened up a few things for me. One was I realized that the source of our seeing is very different than anything that I had learned. And two, I realized that profound change could occur without any effort, that something could occur without any doing. And of course, our entire life is built on doing.
Do be have, and we forget to put the B in front.
Exactly. So that experience opened me up to a whole lot of things. I began seeing in ways that I had never seen before. I noticed that I was able to see, at that time they called it the aura. Now they speak of it as the biofield.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, I was able to notice that there was energy around things, not just living things, but things that we don't think are living, like mountains and rocks.
Well, now we know today with quantum physics that this realization and scientific proof that there is no physical form. It's all squiggly, line or tigglies, if you will. I think that's a southeastern term, but East Asia term. However, now we know, and I had a conversation with Dr. Laszlo some time ago, and I'd mentioned that, quantum physics has proved that now we're 99% space and 1% material. And he said, I would argue that we're 100% energy. And I stopped for a moment because it resonated. There was this, Matthias de Mock calls it empathic resonance, right? That's just that truth, and it's undeniable. However, you have to be in that quiet space for it to appear, because otherwise you're in this, conversation in your head, or what Don Juan calls it, the internal dialogue. right?
Right,
And not
right.
able to move that assemblage point to where it actually has the clear sight that you're talking about. It's a phenomenal experience that once you have it, it changes your life. As it,
Well, you know, it's an epiphany. It's a
Hmm.
revelation. It's that which triggers neuroplasticity. We think that the brain changes because we do something over and over again. Yes, you can get a certain amount of change by going to the gym and lifting weights, but when you stop lifting them, the muscles atrophy.
Right.
What I'm speaking about is something that occurs without any effort and keeps expanding outward. It's it doesn't go up and down. It just keeps growing. It keeps expanding upon itself. And it's very, very profound. And it's been, this whole experience was very instrumental in most of my work that I spoke about in my books, which is that I began to play in the area of light and color. I had actually been utilizing it since 1971, but when I began to see that the body literally radiated energy that was visible to me in terms of color, and most importantly, what I realized is how this changed in response to our state. And so I would often have conversation with my patients at the time when I was practicing. I haven't practiced in years now, but I would have conversation with people, or I would ask them to do certain things. I noticed that every time they were efforting, trying hard, all the things we've been conditioned to do, the biofield literally would collapse. It would disappear. Every time they started thinking, it would literally disappear. But when the breath was flowing easily and they were in a state of just, this thing shined like the sun. And so I began realizing that this whole concept of trying harder, thinking ahead, all the things that we were conditioned to do were actually the wrench that was clogging up the engine of
That was a
our
spanner
lives.
that was thrown in the gears, right?
Exactly. And so I began playing with color to see something about someone's receptivity to light. You see, the body runs on light, just like a plant.
Mhm.
1/3 of the energy that our cells produce for the energy that they need is produced from the food we ingest, but 2/3 is directly through the ingestion of light, just light impacting the eyes, light impacting the
Now,
body.
is it an ingestion, or like you say, when you're in that empty place, right? And there's some references to, having your cup filled in some places, right? You have to have the empty cup for that to happen. Now, in that place, do you also notice that, or had you noticed that intention really set things up, and that from that expansion, the reflection from the world actually gave you opportunities to take those steps toward further experience and understanding that then you were able to put into practice and work with your patients as well?
Um, we might be saying the same thing,
Okay.
but I use very different words. There is an animating force in this universe.
Mhm.
Now, some people refer to it as God, whatever that is. It's which is more a concept. because we have no idea what it is. But there is something that is moving the universe, that is breathing it because it expands and contracts, just like everything within it. Not only does that expansion contraction occur with what we call breathing, more appropriately, something is breathing us, but our entire vascular system, all of our cells, all of our glands, all of our organs, the heart, the entire body is continually expanding and contracting. So is the earth, all living things on the earth, and everything beyond. So you could say that there is a frequency of wellness within the universe that creates this movement of expansion and contraction.
Well, this sounds very Vedantic, right? From the Rig Vedas and the Vedas, there's this understanding of unity consciousness from which we are all threads attached to. I also have heard it explained as an experience I had as a teen, going into the light and beyond and coming back, that we're actually cosmic consciousness condensed into form, just unaware. And this is how my verbiage, right, of explaining what I think you're just saying as well, because there's this flow of energy that
let me just bring it back to the word you used was intention.
Yes.
So there is, you could say, the intelligence of life seems to be moving life in a way that is so miraculous that we don't understand it with the little mind that we have.
However, we can't experience it, right?
Yes. So the point I'm making is, do we actually need to intend what we think, which is very different than knowing? Opinion is not truth. Belief is actually opinion. So what I'm sharing is, if we are able to just allow this guidance to come through, it seemingly brings us right into the heartbeat of life.
That's the intention that I'm talking about.
All right, but what I'm sharing is
putting yourself in that place.
What I'm sharing is that the mind cannot actually see that place from my experience.
It is that place.
Well, the mind.
No, this is not local mind, not the, because there's a lot of terms people
so
get.
You're talking about non-locality,
the non-local, and
so you're talking about non-local mind. You're speaking about non-local mind then, yes?
As part of this picture, yes.
Okay, so non-locality is another word for infinity. And yes, so now we're speaking about the same thing. I think the point that I'm attempting to share is this initial discovery that what was seeing within my humanity was not my eye, was not seemingly not my brain, that I couldn't quite identify from where the seeing was happening from, allowed me to recognize that something else was animating my movements, not only the movements of my heart and everything else within me, but if allowed, there is a mechanism within all living things. It's common to all living things that when we are in resonance with something else, like you and I, it brings us closer together. It takes what appears like two and merges them into one. And when that resonance is not there, and let's say it's a state of dissonance, it naturally recoils them away. What I'm sharing is that sense within all living things that's common to everything, that moves us towards what we are vibrating with it and resonating with and moves us away from all other things, that's called common sense. That
And now, how do we make that sense common?
Well, the point I'm making is that is what is at
I'm leaping
play
ahead, I
at
realize that.
at the most fundamental level. That is at play. And so you said to me a little while in our conversation, when you saw that instrument for your vision, what was the thoughts and so on? And I said, no one had ever asked me that question, but I realized there was total silence. Something, it caught my eye, and then I was literally taken there. And what I find is, this is what's happening in my life right now. Whatever catches my eye, I sense is looking for me.
Right.
And it literally moves me in the direction that I need to move in order to fulfill my reason for being. And what's really fascinating is no thinking is required. It just occurs automatically.
No
and
instructions necessary, right? Although there is
exactly
a slight instruction, because you have to recognize that this is actually occurring and acquiesce to that flow within you. That is that, as you're saying, what you're seeking is also seeking you, right? This is that, from my
exactly
understanding, there's a biospiritual resonance that takes place at a frequency level. And I was able to explain this somewhat with Dr. Mishlove years ago when I had an interview with him. And in my attempts to understand and be able to articulate, because I have a very similar experience to you in this place of just being, right? That things flow, and there's this openness and willingness, even a fearless vulnerability that others kind of would frame it as, right? And it doesn't feel that way. It just feels natural.
Yeah. And what happened over the years then is that what started coming to me were ways that I could interact with people or support people in actually coming to that place, because to actually notice what's looking for us, we have to recognize that what comes to us is very different than what comes from us. Now, this is just my direct experience. I don't know what it is for everyone, but when this clarity or guidance comes, it's silent. And the way I become aware of it is all of a sudden there's a clarity that comes out of nothingness. I don't know from where it comes. So it's not a voice I hear or anything like that. If it's a voice, it's the mind. What happens is this is silence that is totally clear and just filled with awareness. And what I started noticing in the late 70s, when I was working with color, is I was led to believe, oh, this color does this color does this, you use this to excite, you use this to sedate. And while the model seemed to work a good bit of the time, it often didn't work. And so I started asking people which were their favorite colors. And I was astounded that everyone had a different kind of favorite color or colors they didn't like. At that time, biofeedback was a big thing. So I bought a extravagant physiological monitoring system. I would hook up my patients and I would have them look at different colors, and I would notice what was happening to their physiology, to their autonomic nervous system, to their breathing rate, to their muscle tensions. And what I noticed is that when they looked or visualized or thought about colors that they were very comfortable with, their body just went into a state of relaxation. But when they encountered colors that they felt uncomfortable with, their body had a typical stress reaction. And I thought, and this was unique to everyone. It didn't follow any model. Your particular
Well, it's kind of hard to find a model that's prescriptive for everyone. We're so individualistic and so, again,
Exactly.
frequency driven, right? And those proclivities that we have towards certain things, those are what we resonate with, and that's going to be different for everyone.
Exactly.
Some of them may be similar, right? There may be clusters. Right.
What I started noticing is that I could use, you see, color is a perceptual phenomenon. Color is actually just vibration, part of the electromagnetic spectrum, and it is the vibrational foundation of a certain set of experiences. Light and life are the same phenomenon in two forms. One is formless, and one is matter or form. That's why David Bohm said all matter is frozen light. So when a person is interacting with what they perceive as a color, if that color resonates with them, they will just allow it in, just like allowing someone into their home that they feel like is their close friend. But if the color they're interacting with just doesn't resonate for them, literally they will recoil from that. And so what I saw is that the colors we're comfortable with are vibrationally the foundation of the experiences we resonate with, and the colors we're uncomfortable with are the vibrational foundation of experiences that we are yet not able to embrace. Some may have occurred during this lifetime. Most of them have been passed on from generation to generation, and we don't know exactly what the origin is.
There seems to be a couple of different things in that framework. Again, biospiritual, the lineage, the cultural memories, the biology of memory that's passed from generation to generation. And then there's also the frequency of the solar resonance, for lack of a better, that extends over time. And two of those then combine for this physical experience, so to speak. Now, in that vibrational bandwidth, the colors have those frequency ranges, and we can tap into those and be comfortable or uncomfortable depending on our own level of awareness, it seems, and how far we've been able to acquiesce to that understanding that these things come from nothingness. And this nothingness, when you mentioned the word, it was like, oh, cool, you'll love this. So there's a guy from Canada in the 1950s. His name is Wilbert Smith. And he ran, this is off the chart kind of stuff, and yet it was very real. He ran Canada's UFO investigation program in the 1950s. It was funded by the Ministry of Transportation. And so in this, he actually had conversations with what he called people from elsewhere, different forms, different intelligences, non-human, right? And one of the pertinent or tasty tidbits that they offered him was that humans don't understand nothingness. And that's the basis for their understanding. So I find it really congruent that you mention, this comes from nothingness, and that's a tough place for most people to let go to, or to release to, yet let alone incorporate that awareness on a regular basis. It's a practice.
But that creation is the transformation of no thing into a thing. And so, and of course, you mentioned quantum mechanics before. Obviously, if you keep magnifying, you keep seeing that what appeared to be matter is actually matterless, and it's more formless, more formless, more formless, and then you realize that it's just a field of potentiality, a quantum soup, if you will,
Right.
that is just appearing and disappearing at whatever rate. What I found fascinating is I found, after working with thousands of people, I began to realize that you could use color almost in homeopathic remedies, very small periods of time via the eyes, the windows of the soul, to actually help the person desensitize from the unresolved traumas, issues,
The push and
PTSD,
pulls of
things.
energy that we feel.
Exactly. And so what I realize is, 90% of disease is caused or contributed by significantly through something called stress. Stress is when we encounter an aspect of life we're allergic to, and we have an allergic reaction with psychophysiological manifestations.
Because most of us live from the heads up, right? We have no idea that the body is an
Exactly.
instrument, let alone how to tune it or play in concert. And yet, with all this mishigas that happens in the head, we shove
Right.
it into the body and then wonder why we have dis-ease.
And so what I began to discover is through a very gentle utilization of different wavelengths of light, which we perceive as color, people could become gradually comfortable with those vibrations that they used to feel uncomfortable with. So in other words, the things that triggered the stress reaction within us and the dis-ease would start to dissipate. I started doing this work in the late 70s. I developed many light therapy, color therapy pieces of equipment that I used to teach therapists and other physicians to use. And now I simplified it into something that people could utilize at home, where they follow a simple protocol. And when they put on a pair of filtered glasses, it's not about, oh, put them on for 10 minutes. It's put them on, and just as the body breathes, if there's any constriction in the breathing, remove them. In other words, rather than pushing through like we've been trained to do,
Right.
what I'm suggesting is, let's see if we can become subtly aware of the just noticeable difference.
Well, you
So
mentioned
we can get
the
so we
subtle.
can get comfortable. Yes, it's
Yeah.
incredibly subtle, so that we begin to notice when something is not moving us in a direction of ease, and then we take them off. We sit with that, it calms down, and what occurs over time is the person is gradually able to spend more time with the things that used to immediately put them into a stress reaction. And what occurs over time is not only do they find that more of life is available, you could say that they start to experience a full spectrum life, but their physiology changes
Could we say
because
that life is more fulfilling at that point?
fulfilling. Exactly. What's fascinating is that when I first became aware of the chakra system, I couldn't understand why there were colors associated with these energy centers. I couldn't find any scientific evidence for it. But as I started working with first hundreds and then thousands of people, I started noticing empirically that if, for instance, someone said that they were very uncomfortable with red or orange, they would have some sort of gastrointestinal issues, lower back issues, reproductive issues. that the colors they were uncomfortable with, it wasn't just a psychological phenomenon, an emotional dis-ease, but literally that part of the body was remaining in the dark. Here, the body runs on light. That part is remaining in the dark because our receptivity to it is so minimal that the system is blocking the light from getting in. And so when more light gets in, there's a profound change because the quality of our health is directly related to the quality of light that we are absorbing. Sunlight, of course, is the natural source, but 90% of us spend our life, our daytime indoors under artificial light, under light emitted from all of our technology. This light is not only totally out of balance with nature's light, but what it's feeding us creates real problems because our body has many trillions of cells that communicate by interacting signals of light, what's called biophotons. Every second, every cell emits more than 100,000 biophotons. The orderliness of the biophotons is related to the state of wellness. If they are disordered, then you have dis-ease. Well, artificial light is totally disordered light. And so we take in this light, our body cannot communicate appropriately in terms of what it should be doing and when. And this is critical because in biology and in life, timing is everything. That's why there's such a focus on circadian rhythms. Circadian
And
rhythms
you're
are
talking
not
to a
just
progressive drummer too, so timing
Yeah.
is everything.
Timing literally is everything. And so that the reason circadian rhythms is such a big thing today is because circadian rhythms are not just about when we awaken and when we sleep. They're every point in between the 24-hour cycle. Every cell is receiving signals of light. Light is totally invisible. It is not the brightness we experience.
Right.
Light is invisible. Every cell receives that invisible energy, which is formless, before there's any form observed in the world. And that is what keeps all of our cells knowing what to do, when to do it, and to what degree, and keeps us in each moment,
Now,
congruent
from what
and
you're
coherent.
saying, let me extrapolate on this just a little bit, and this is going to stretch the audience mind, I'm sure. In this progression of understanding, of being, of exercising this cosmic muscle, if you will, there's this opportunity to remain, to not age, even to go back into more of a pristine form. Would you agree that this is our potential and possibly where we are moving to with this new awareness and this subtle change, especially in our area of space? We're in a, we're moving into the age of Aquarius now. We're in a different area of space. We're moving from a very patriarchal to a matriarchal energy. We're moving from the very constricted to the expansive. This new living awareness that we are talking about is something that's being presented in a lot of different forms. As you were talking about, I reflected on another Swigard multi-level awareness technique, in which one of those exercises is to go through each of the chakras and get in touch with their resonant spin,
Right.
and being able to acknowledge that within the body and line them up more effectively for a greater fulfillment, if you will. So these kinds of things, and I really appreciate the depth, because you've taken not only that understanding, you've pulled out the research and the empirical representation of that because you're looking for it, right? You've figured out how to find this data that reflects the reality, which in science, you know, we can't measure, or we can't tell what's there if we can't measure it. And this is some of the things that as we grow, we're the instrument that measures. It's not an exterior, although
The knowledge finds us.
right.
Einstein was once being interviewed, and the journalist said, Mr. Einstein, how did you discover the theory of relativity? And Einstein started laughing. He said, oh, that happened while I was playing piano. The point that he was making is, prior to every discovery that we make in science, if you speak to a scientist, I don't care what level of science, prior to them beginning to look in a certain direction for something, something comes to them. Maybe it's in the middle of eating at a restaurant. All of a sudden, whoa, they start writing on the napkin. You know, the mind then says, oh, look what I thought of. But no, no, no. It comes to them free of charge. All
From the
discovery,
nothingness.
all discovery is preceded by something that moves us in a certain direction.
Now,
So
with that statement, is there a potential of having, understanding frequency, a perfected form, fit, and function in the world that we are designed to fulfill?
it is our natural state. It is the way we are hardwired. Consider this. An infant is born. An infant has no awareness of skin coloration. It has no awareness of religiosity. It has no awareness of preferences. It has no awareness of gender. None of this exists. The only thing that exists is isness. The infant is not even aware that it is separate from anything else. It lives in a holographic state
Totally supportive.
called presence. Yes, totally supported. The moment we begin interacting with that infant, the process of conditioning occurs. This is sort of an odd example, but I'll utilize it to make a point. In the early stage, well, let's go to something even before that. When an infant is very young, we put it in diapers. Why? Because when the body needs to urinate or have a bowel movement, it just does it. It's just natural. There's no thought about it. It's just natural. There's a certain point where parents have been told, you know, your child really should be toilet trained by now. So that particular day occurs and you hear the child going, oh, and you say, now stop a second, and you pick it up and you take it, run over to the bathroom, you put it on the little porta potty, and then you say, okay, now you can make. And so we condition the child to hold on to something beyond the time that it's designed to be held. And then as the child gets older and mom and dad are taking a drive on Sunday, they say, now you and your sister go to the bathroom, because once we start driving, we're not going to be able to stop. And so that conditioning is make something happen that is not ready to happen. If you use just that example, you realize our entire life from our conditioning is to make something happen that isn't ready to happen, or to stop something from happening that is.
That's the push and pull I referred to earlier. That's exactly what that is.
That's what's going on all the time. And what the average person doesn't realize is the expression "I think" means I don't know. And if you Knowing is different than thinking.
Yeah.
If
yeah.
you look up the word belief, which means the same as thought, idea, concept, theory, hypothesis, you then look at the antonyms, the words that mean the opposite of belief, and you find a really profound word: truth.
Hmm.
Truth is the opposite of belief. Truth is what sets one free.
The evidence
Belief
of which
is
I
what
was
keeps
talking
one
about earlier
incarcerated.
in making the distinction between a belief system and an experience system. Because the
Yeah.
experience system is based on your direct experience and comes from that nothingness, because this is just, it's your direct experience. That's
You know,
truth for you.
every person, yes, every person is aware when thinking is going on.
Mhm.
They're aware that something is chattering inside. What often we are not aware of is that in order to have that awareness, something must be observing or aware of the chatter. That which is aware from my direct experience is aware from no point of view.
Mhm.
It does not have a voice.
Like the old Zen phrase, it's just what is.
Right. It just notices all that is. And that piece, which I call pure awareness, and most people refer to as consciousness,
Mhm.
is common to all living things. When you are swimming in that ocean because the drop has fallen in and disappeared, we are swimming in the same ocean. We are all part of the same ocean. What you began with namaste, is essentially it. The illusion that we are all individual drops. Only through the direct experience of what we have been attempting to describe over the last hour is when that drop falls into the ocean. And for an instance of time, everything changes. And for me, in 1976, that instance shifted something in the seeing mechanism that has been that way for all this time. And so you asked a few moments ago, could this new awareness and so on perhaps lead to living maybe much, much longer because we are less used up? So
Right.
much, when we look at most of us, most people are aging. You're speaking about saging. Aging is a process that goes up and then declines. Saging is something that just keeps moving up, 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 up. It's not in a state of retirement, but in a state of inspirement. And it moves to a certain level until its everything has been used up, and then it's just poof, and it goes into the nothingness again, or everything is, however you want to look at it.
Now, it's interesting how this very framework, let's just call it that, it appears in ancient texts. Why has it taken us so long to actually get to a place where we can start asking the questions that then allows this ancient knowledge to come back into play in a much greater way? Is it that we are recognizing that within chaos is order, and that our natural proclivities are to seek natural order?
In the old days of drama, before they had elaborate costumes like they have on Broadway these days,
Right.
the actors and actresses had a little mask and had a rod attached to it. And they would put that mask over their face, and that was a mask that was embodying their persona.
Right.
That wasn't the person. That was just the persona. Persona comes from the Italian word personare, and personare means to peek through, to peer through. And what it means is that the essential us is not the persona, it's that which is peering through the mask. So you ask a question, why has it taken us so long? We have all been conditioned to believe that the most evolved part of our being is this mind that we can think with. When I went to school, we were led to believe that we were higher than animals and plants and more evolved because we could think.
Interesting.
And
There's a, I had this, after I had my awakening in college, I was in a pre-med program at the time. I was compelled to go down to the university library and look up the word Satan. And I couldn't figure out why. Kind of like you know, seeing the tool in the corner of your room. I just was compelled. So I go down and I've got this 2-volume set and I get to it. And the very first note in it was referencing the Greek thetan, Thetan, which meant thinker. And it was just like one of those revelatory moments, right, where I saw how that fictitious enemy was created in order to keep us less than intelligent and manipulatable. That there was this command and control, you know, implementation that bridged church and state initially, and it hasn't changed since until recently. And I think even the silver lining of the pandemic got people to question internally. What are you going to do when you're obsessed on self-hygiene and sequestered, right? There's just you. What are you going to do? Well, you're going to talk to you. How are you going to talk to you?
Yeah, you know, life is filled with things that are stressful that just occur.
Mm-hmm.
You know, an earthquake, a storm, sometimes we get sick. But most of the stress we experience are not those natural stresses that people of the past used to experience. Most of them are just because the external experience does not match what we think is supposed to occur.
They're more contrivances than realities.
Yeah, and so as I have moved through my life, I have begun to see more and more that what I think is true is not truth. It's just an opinion at a certain point in time that comes and goes, just like different model cars.
Well, and it gives you something to experiment with, to question, to inquire, and to let that nothingness, right, provide the response as to whether this is congruent with this natural order of things, or it's slightly, you know, out of tune.
You know, all of us have fallen in love at some point.
Oh my gosh.
And we've noticed something. When we experience that type of love with someone, there's nothing we can do about it. And when we don't experience that kind of love, there's nothing we can do about it. It either is and it takes us, or it isn't and it doesn't take us. Everything in life, either we fall in love with it and it takes us, or it doesn't. If we have to start thinking about it, it usually hasn't taken us.
Now, what about the longing, right? There's this deep, intense longing for this connection.
Right. And that is for a very simple reason. You're speaking about fundamental desire, not desire of I want a new Maserati, but the desire, which is the yearning for oneness, for unity.
Right.
You know that our entire physiology is continually working to achieve that.
No, we're a
When-
holistic system attempting to find homeostasis.
But that is, it's even more than homeostasis, it's oneness, because light enters the eye. About 25% of it is for eyesight and vision. 75% is literally,
Data input.
well, it's telling your body what time it is, what day it is, where are you on
Right.
the earth. And that information times the events of everything going on in our body. That information from light goes to the portion of the brain we call the brain's brain, the hypothalamus, the site of the body's biological clock, which has an inseparable connection with the pineal, what they call the third eye, the seat
Well,
of
and
the
those
soul.
two, this is you bring this, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you're
Yeah.
just making my mind pop with relative information and correlative factoids. The hypothalamus is at the bottom, the pineal is at the top of the corpus callosum, which is the transceiver in between the two hemispheres that I've often wondered, maybe that's the seat of the soul, right? Because that's where that light information comes in through the crown and is distributed. And
You mean into the pineal?
well, via so there's a threefold claim, if you will, in that case, right? From both hemispheres and the corpus callosum. And from that entrance into the corpus callosum, it's distributed not just through the hemispheres, but also to the pineal and the hypothalamus.
Well,
I don't know. These are just things that I'm looking at. Okay, here's the constructs and understanding this light flow. My question is, okay, how's it work and how can I tune in better to understand what's going on inside of me so that I can better operate with what's outside of me? And that's a perception that there's something outside of me.
Yeah.
That ain't necessarily so.
Yeah, just as the hypothalamus is known as the brain's brain, the pineal is known as the regulator of regulators. Literally, the pineal takes all the information about light, darkness, all the spectral characteristics going on outside the Earth's electromagnetic field. Simultaneously, it shares that with 100 trillion cells in the body. Each cell at the same instance of time takes that information, orchestrates its internal function in order to synchronize itself, come into a place of at oneness with the cosmos. Everything that's going on physiologically, if you take the mind out, is just continually bringing us into oneness. The mind, which creates sort of like a little bit of an impedance in there, is what slows that down or moves it in one direction or the other that we call normal, which is almost always not natural. And so the more that we begin to identify our essence with that awareness that I spoke of earlier, that is aware of the mind chatter, the more we identify with that rather than with the continual chatter and mind that is continually changing, the more that occurs, the more at oneness we experience. And when that at oneness is really when it's there, we disappear as individuals, and all there is a state of ubiquitous contentment.
Wonderful.
And that's health and happiness when we speak about that.
And an experience of joy.
Yeah. Yeah.
instead.
Yeah.
And it
And
seems to, you know, and is this that operational capacity that we have to exude, like you were talking earlier, right? This consciousness that just pervades everything,
yeah.
permeates and produces these experiential moments that give us that opportunity to reside in that state of joy and to begin to bring that more into a regular state of being instead of being pushed and pulled by the distractions or what we believe that, you know, that codependent self comes up, right, and wants to operate in that fashion. This is completely beyond that. It's a state, from what I hear you saying, it's a state of being that when you are in, there's a perfect, for lack of a better, operational capacity that you enjoy in whatever moment you're in. With
You know,
you're with.
a simple way is I
Yeah,
suggest.
let's make it simple, man. This is just so
Yeah.
complex for most people. We spend our lives trying to make it simple.
So here's a simple experiment. Notice everything that enters your awareness. For instance, I walk out of my office, I walk into the kitchen, and I see a dish in the sink. Or should I say, the dish in the sink catches my eye. Now, why does it catch my eye? It's not the eye that catches the thing, it's the thing that catches the eye. That's why we say, oh, she caught my eye. Well, the she or the dish is just light energy. The light is actually looking for the eye. When that occurs, the eye reflexively moves by itself, no thought required, toward that which has caught it. The body then realigns itself. If you do nothing, your body will walk toward the sink, will pick up the dish, will wash it carefully, will rinse it off and put it in the drainer or dry it and put it away. That is what I do with my life. That is my meditation. Whatever catches my eye is looking for me. Whatever is looking for me is the next step in the journey of my life. And that is what I do, whether it's a phone call, an interview, a bill, a text, a dish, making the bed, saying I love you. It doesn't make any difference. That is the way my life is moved from morning till night. There's no time in between to consider, oh, should I, you see that the trash is full and the mind says, I'll prioritize that for later.
Yeah, no, do it now. That's why it caught your eye.
Now.
The order in the things.
The timing of the universe is so precise because timing is everything. If we just respected that and notice that things are not occurring by accident, they come at the moment they come because that is the moment, then we are continually in that moment that people always are speaking about.
Now, might you suggest, absolutely, and exquisite explanation of it. Now, to bring it into a practical application for experience, for others to experience, might I offer that this same type of eye catching when you're, for business people or students or just anywhere, somebody catches your eye, right? What do? Do you ignore it, or you do walk toward it and wonder, okay, why did you why did you catch my eye? Do you ask questions, or do you set it aside? Well, absolutely, it's my point. This is the choice that you have in that moment.
But hold on a second. I'm saying something a little different. It takes effort to avoid it. It is effortless if you allow it to
Yeah,
move you,
absolutely.
it's effortless. It takes work. Oh, should I? Oh, no, I'm going to go.
Right.
There is a reason things enter our awareness. They are looking for us. That's where the gems of our life, that's where the surprises, that's where we meet that special person. That's where we win the lottery. It's not to question. It's just to be.
Absolutely. Now, coming close towards closing time, and parting is such sweet sorrow. What if there were a piece of advice that you could give, and you gave some great when, walking out and becoming aware of your awareness. What is there a simple technique that you find works best for the majority of folks who engage it? Because I know there
I'll
are
just
techniques
tell you.
and things that we can try that, yeah, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
I'm not much on homework. In my book, Luminous Life, I talk about these 1 minute or 30-second meditations
Mhm.
that you can do throughout the day that don't take any time. But much of my work is I mentor a small number of individuals on an individual basis. I give them all this color therapy kit that I've developed. This is not to sell a product, but this is something they use at home in their own time. It just takes a few seconds a day, literally a few seconds. And what it does is it allows them to gradually become comfortable with the aspects of life that are uncomfortable, that trigger them into an emotional reaction. That is what I have found is perhaps one of the most potent things that I've been playing with since the late 70s. That's one of the few things that I give people because, see, my sense is that awareness is what's curative. It's that literally seeing something in a new way can change everything instantaneously. And so for me, it's all about allowing that seeing mechanism to see without the obstruction of belief. And so the work with color is to dissipate a lot of the
Constricted beliefs.
things in our life that create stress so that we can breathe easier, live longer, and most importantly, have a sense of contentment. In the book Luminous Life, there are a lot of little simple things that people can do. They
I'll
can
share
also
that
think of,
link below as well so that they have access to it.
yeah. So it's, it's allowing in some of these things that have come up during our conversation. And the way we allow them in is because some of them we say, oh my God, of course. Of course, I've always known that. What resonates with us is not something new. It's something we've always known. It's like reading only confirms what you already know. And so taking what has transpired today for all of us and allowing it to move us, whether it is to purchase a book or to becoming more aware of what's catching our eye, or to say, gee, that guy Zen has really an interesting program. I'm going to listen in every day, or whatever it is. That's what allows, that's the way my life works. I just allow things to move me, and then I see where they take me. And then I discover, you know what? This is a miracle. This is magical. And that's what keeps me inspired in my life. Even at 75, I'm full of inspiration. I'm full of excitement of new things. So
Well, I'm kind of like you. I got reignited here recently with one of those flows of information as a result of this program. Last year, I had interviewed the founder for the Live and Let Live global peace movement, and it just had that empathic resonance. Yeah, I got to get involved. And next thing I know, a few months later, I'm executive director, and I have this opportunity to fulfill what I've known my mission was since a teenager, and that's to help facilitate harmony among people and planet, which is the same thing you're doing. We just happen to have a opportunity that incorporates both a moral principle and a legal principle, and be a good human and not being an aggressor. So we gather people to unpack what the being a good human really means, and through all those different levels and colors and whatnot. And then on the legal side, we actually are determined to adjust or calibrate the laws and legislation to remove all aggression, which has been allowed. And so those are some of the ways of finding that oneness and actually doing something about it in order to frame it and give the opportunity for it to emerge as it ought to.
You know, when you just said that, I realized that all disease is based in competition.
Yes.
It's competition between microbes and healthy tissue, or competition between one kind of cell or another. But the entire body and the entire universe, competition isn't actually what's going on there. It's collaboration.
Exactly.
Life is a collaboratory. Yeah. So this is what, you know, you've been saying, what we've been saying, which is, as the Beatles said, come together.
Right now.
Right now.
Jacob, this has been an amazing, wonderful, one of the best chats I've had, I have to say, and very apocalyptic for both of us, as well as the audience, which is really a triple win in that case. And that's what I really hope for and intend in my offering and willingness to be here and do this.
Thank God. Yeah.
Well,
thank God we get this opportunity.
Oh yeah, and thank you again so much. And with that, namaste and in la catch. Thanks for sticking with us for this episode of One World in a New World. I'm Zen Benefiel, your host, and I will see you next time.